what kind of noise can be made if the WNBA continues to allow this treatment of Caitlin Clark? You really think they're going to be silent?
Stephen Smith isn't talking about bad calls anymore. He's calling for a federal investigation into the WNBA's treatment of Caitlin Clark. This isn't just sports talk. It's the kind of statement that could pull the Department of Justice, Congress, and maybe even the president into the conversation. Clark's targeting on the court has reached a point where it's impossible to ignore, and Stephen A. believes it could be a matter of civil rights. The evidence? Disturbing. The league's brightest star, the player responsible for record-breaking merchandise sales, skyrocketing viewership, and a financial boom the WNBA hadn't seen in its entire history, is also taking the hardest hits, both literally and figuratively. This isn't a random run of bad luck or just part of the game. The numbers prove it, and the consequences go way beyond basketball.
Congress and labor and justice departments would be justified in examining the facts.
If workplace safety laws were broken or civil rights protections violated, the WNBA could be staring down federal subpoenas, public hearings, and the loss of millions in sponsorship deals. That's why this isn't just a sports controversy, it's a national story. And if you think the government needs to step in, Stephen A. says you're not alone. Fans, analysts, and even lawmakers are asking the same question. Why is the league letting this happen to the one player who's done more for its bottom line than anyone in history? What comes next could change women's basketball forever. But first, let's talk about why Caitlin Clark became the WNBA's golden goose in the first place.
The golden child, in her second year in the league, who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, if she is seen to be physically getting abused on a basketball court in a way, such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that man is not going to say something?
Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA, she rewrote its entire economic playbook overnight. Before she arrived, the league was struggling to get mainstream attention. After she showed up, merchandise sales exploded by 601%. Indiana Fever games started drawing national TV ratings the WNBA hadn't seen in years. Team values tripled. League Pass subscriptions shot up by 366%. The WNBA app saw a mind-bending 613% spike in engagement. And Clark's personal endorsement portfolio topped $11 million, more than most veteran players could dream up in a lifetime. This wasn't a gradual climb, it was an immediate, seismic shift that made executives in other sports take notice. The comparison to Michael Jordan in the NBA isn't just hyperbole. Like Jordan, Clark brought in casual fans, corporate sponsors, and media attention that fundamentally changed the league's market value. She became a household name not just for her skills, but for her ability to make people care about women's basketball. And yet, instead of treating her like the league's most valuable asset, which she is, WNBA leadership has allowed a disturbing trend to take root: relentless targeting on the court. For any other player, the kind of economic numbers Clark delivers would mean extra protection from officials and league executives. For her, it's been the opposite. You'd think protecting the golden goose would be common sense, but in the WNBA's case, it seems jealousy, politics, and bad decision-making are outweighing basic business logic. And that's where the story starts to take a dark turn. Clark's on-court treatment isn't just rough, it's statistically alarming. Last season, she absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls in the entire league. That's almost double the rate of the next closest player. Think about that for a second. One player, responsible for most of the league's economic boom, is also the one taking the brunt of its most dangerous contact. We're talking about obvious elbows, late hits, and cheap shots, the kind of plays that would draw an immediate whistle for veteran stars. Sophie Cunningham, who now plays alongside Clark, told the Wall Street Journal that the league isn't protecting her. ESPN analyst Rebecca Lobo went even further, saying every single one of those big hits against Clark should have been called as fouls. The footage backs it up. Hard contact to the head that gets waved off. Full body checks ignored. Opponents taking liberties after the whistle without fear of punishment. And when Clark reacts, She's the one hit with the technical foul. Her injury before the All-Star game, caused by this exact style of rough play, wasn't just a personal setback. The ratings for the event dropped by 36% compared to the previous year. Fans tuned out without her. The message is clear. Clark isn't just another player. She's the WNBA's ratings anchor. And yet, the official's whistle stays silent. Whether it's incompetence, bias, or something deeper, the league's unwillingness to protect her is starting to look like more than bad refereeing. It's starting to look like a pattern, one that could cost the WNBA everything. If you want proof that Caitlin Clark's treatment isn't just about physical targeting, look no further than the 2024 All-Star voting. Fans turned out in record numbers, 1.29 million votes for Clark, the most ever for a WNBA player. That's not just a landslide, it's a tidal wave of support. It should have made her the undisputed face of the event, a lock for top recognition. But then came the players' votes, and the picture changed completely. On the player ballot, Clark was ranked 9th among guards. 9th. That means her own peers, many of whom are benefiting from the sold-out arenas, charter flights, and higher salaries her presence helped create, decided she wasn't even in the top tier at her position. Hall of Fame broadcaster Dick Vitale didn't mince words, calling it pure jealousy, and he's not wrong. The contrast between fan adoration and peer rejection is striking. Fans see a generational talent transforming the league. Some players, on the other hand, seem to see a threat to their spotlight, their legacy, and their position in the WNBA hierarchy. This wasn't a random voting result. It felt coordinated, like a message to remind Clark that her popularity doesn't give her control over the league's culture. But here's the problem. That culture is costing the league real money and goodwill. Fans aren't stupid. They can see the disconnect. And when the people in uniform snub the player fans care about most, it sends a message far louder than any press release. That message? This league would rather protect egos than protect its biggest star. The backlash isn't just coming from fans and media personalities anymore. It's now reached the highest levels of sports commentary and even politics. The Wall Street Journal published an op-ed arguing that the Department of Justice and Congress should investigate Clark's treatment as a civil rights issue. They didn't tiptoe around it either. They laid out the case for federal intervention in black and white.
Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations.
Stephen A. Smith backed it up on national television, saying there's legitimate legal ground for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division to get involved. This isn't just about bad officiating. It's about whether the WNBA has created a hostile work environment through systematic targeting and inadequate protection. If such an investigation were to open, it wouldn't just be a PR nightmare. Federal investigators could subpoena internal emails, review referee communications, and dig through the league's player safety protocols. They'd be looking for evidence of bias, negligence, or outright retaliation. And remember, this isn't unprecedented. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission once investigated the WNBA over pregnancy discrimination claims from player Erica Wheeler. The legal playbook for holding the league accountable already exists.
WNBA, you've been forewarned. You gotta address this. Kill this noise now and start ejecting people if their behavior is too excessive. Against everybody, not just Caitlin Clark. Have a consistent policy.
When Stephen A. Smith moves from criticizing referees to calling for subpoenas, you know the situation has escalated beyond sports. He's essentially telling the league, clean this up now or the federal government will do it for you. That's a line no sports commissioner wants to hear, and Kathy Engelbert is now squarely in that crosshairs. When politics gets involved in sports, the stakes change completely. This isn't just about referees missing calls anymore. It's about senators, federal agencies, and corporate sponsors deciding whether the WNBA is worth their association. Senator Jim Banks has already sent a formal letter to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert demanding answers about Clark's treatment. That's not symbolic. It's the first step toward hearings, subpoenas, and public questioning. If the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division or the Labor Department decided to step in, the league could face investigations into workplace safety, discrimination, and internal bias. Those probes wouldn't just target the referees. They'd dig into ownership communications, league-wide policies, and even off-the-record remarks from executives.
The business fallout could be catastrophic. Major corporate sponsors are allergic to anything that smells like civil rights violations or hostile work environments. If they sense the WNBA isn't protecting its top star, especially when she's a player generating historic revenue, they won't hesitate to walk away. Networks could also renegotiate or pull back on broadcast commitments if the league's credibility tanks. And here's the dangerous part. This isn't just a women's basketball story anymore. It's national news, and the optics are brutal. The WNBA is being accused of ignoring abuse against a player who is single-handedly boosting salaries, attendance, and TV deals. That's a narrative no PR team can spin away. The longer the league waits to address it, the more it hands control of the story to lawmakers, federal investigators, and a public that's already choosing sides. And right now, the public is with Clark.
The Indiana Fever aren't sitting quietly while their franchise player gets targeted. This offseason, their roster moves weren't just about basketball talent, they were about sending a message. Bringing in Sophie Cunningham, a player known for her toughness, wasn't just about shooting percentages, it was about adding muscle to protect Clark. Pair that with Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall, and Kelsey Mitchell, and you've got a core that's not afraid to get physical if someone takes a cheap shot. The Fever's front office has also made it clear they expect 2025 to be different. They've invested too much in Clark, financially and strategically, to let her be a punching bag again. And make no mistake, Clark now has leverage most athletes never see this early in their career. She's proven that without her, ratings drop, merchandise sales slow, and national buzz fades. If the WNBA doesn't step up its protection, the Fever could push for rule changes, harsher penalties for flagrant fouls, and more accountability for officiating crews. If that still doesn't work, they could take the fight public, forcing the league's hand.
Because here's the reality. Losing Clark to injury or burnout wouldn't just hurt the Fever. It would crater the WNBA's current momentum. The team knows it, the fans know it, and if the league doesn't act, the Indiana Fever might just take matters into their own hands, both on and off the court. Stephen A. Smith's warning wasn't just about basketball. It was about the survival of the WNBA as a credible league. Caitlin Clark's treatment has become the ultimate stress test for the league's leadership, its players, and its relationship with fans. Right now, the WNBA is standing at a crossroads. Down one path, the league admits there's a problem, enforces stronger protections, and sends a message that star players, especially the ones carrying the sport's growth, won't be left unprotected. That path could solidify the WNBA as a legitimate professional league where talent is respected and safeguarded.
Down the other path, silence, inaction, and excuses. That road leads to injuries, declining trust, and an ugly reputation for ignoring the abuse of its biggest draw. The risk isn't just losing Clark for a season, it's losing the momentum she's built, the new audience she's brought in, and the corporate sponsors willing to invest millions. Stephen A. has essentially put the league on notice. If you won't protect your players, the government might step in and do it for you. And when federal oversight becomes part of the conversation, you're no longer in control of the narrative. Fans, analysts, and even politicians are watching closely. If the WNBA chooses the wrong side of this crossroads, it won't just be remembered as a league that failed Caitlin Clark. It'll be remembered as a league that failed itself. The next move belongs to the commissioner, and the clock is ticking.